Okay, guys, so today what we're going to do is we're going to go through the PowerPoint we use during labs and we're going to look at various hearing instrument styles. So let's jump in here, and as I move through the slides, you'll see questions pop up, and you can answer those questions, and then your results will be sent back to me, and that way I know if there are any areas we need to review or if you guys are, feeling pretty comfortable with the styles and the components, that kind of thing. And you'll have to excuse me a little bit. I am ill right now, so my voice might seem a little muffled or have some coughing, congestion type of thing. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so what is this style of hearing aid? If you said BTE, that would be correct. Here we're looking at a BTE, a behind the ear instrument with a mold attached with regular, just standard tubing. Okay, what are some benefits of this style? The benefits of wearing a behind the ear instrument include, you're pulling the electronics out of the ear. So if a patient has drainage issues or if they have really waxy ears and have trouble with, wax building up in their speaker, you can move that electronics behind the ear. That way they can clean the mold or they can clean the thin tube really easily. It also helps for patients with dexterity issues who maybe have arthritis or some other kind of problem manipulating small items in their hands. It gives them a little bit more to hold on to. Especially with a mold, you're going to have an easier time placing it in the ear canal. BTEs also offer a little bit more power. So if you have a patient with a profound or a severe hearing loss, you can give them a BTE and that will provide a lot of power and still give them that clarity, the telecoil, the various options that might not fit in a hearing aid that's a little bit smaller. Okay, so what are some downfalls to this style? Downfalls might include bulkiness. BTEs are one of the largest hearing aids. Um, it could be too much amplification for some patients. Some patients, are worried about vanity, and so you have to be careful about what size mold you make to attach to the BTE. Things like that. Um, Really, BTEs are pretty common hearing aids. You'll see them on a lot of patients, and they're a great option for patients with dexterity issues and drainage issues, like we said before. So here you can see you've got a mold with a regular standard tube attached to a BTE here behind the ear. Um, and there's some items there to review. Here you see a BTE with standard tubing on the left side and a BTE with thin tubing on the right side. The thin tube just screws on and off to the BTE casing, and you can make a BTE with a snap mold. You can make it with domes, various domes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the course, what kind of domes are appropriate for what kind of losses. Okay, so here again you've got a BTE with standard tubing on the left, and that mold is kind of a flesh colored mold with flesh colored tubing. And then again a BTE with thin tube on a plastic ear on the right. And you can see that the ear is, the ear that I'm using here is a fake ear that's pretty large, but you can see that the thin tube, is pretty low profile. You can't see it very well, so that's a great option if you're looking at a BTE, but the patient doesn't need a mold at this point. Okay, what is this style of hearing aid? That style that we're looking at is a RIC or a Wright, and you can see that this tubing here actually has wire in it. So it differs from the BTE in that there's wiring there and then it's attached to the speaker down at the dome. Okay, so let's play this and we're going to go through some of the parts of the RIC. So there you can see the casing. Okay, and what component am I pointing to? That would be the microphones. Now what component am I pointing to? That would be the push button. It would be for program changes or volume control. There you can see the battery compartment. And that is used to turn the hearing aid on and off and then to obviously change the battery once it goes dead. Here you can see the speaker wire attached to the speaker. And we're pulling off the dome. So you can see that it's a size 2 speaker, standard. It's got a wax strap there that comes in and out. And that just protects the speaker from cerumen or wax getting down towards the electronics. So we're going to snap that dome back on. And the speaker plugs into the body of the hearing aid up at the top, and it can be removed with a little pin. Okay, that little plastic part there that I was just pointing to is referred to as a sport lock or a concha lock, and it is just a little piece of plastic that helps hold the hearing aid in the ear. And here you can see that I'm putting the hearing aid on the fake ear. I put the body of the aid on first and then put the dome into the ear, and the concha lock is just sitting there laying right in the concha. Okay. So what are the benefits of this style? Benefits of RIC or Wright style hearing aids include better sound quality because you're putting the speaker closer to the eardrum. They are more low profile than a BTE because they're smaller. You take the speaker out of the casing and put it into the ear canal, and that allows you to create a smaller hearing aid. It's also easy to change components out in the clinic. You can change the speaker strength. You can change broken speakers. You can change domes to change the acoustic qualities. And you can send patients out with a RIC the same day. You don't have to wait for a custom mold to come back in from the manufacturer. A downfall to this style would be lack of power. You don't always get the same amount of power or amplification with a BTE as you do, or with a RIC that you do a BTE. And for patients with drainage issues or a lot of wax or cerumen, speakers can short easily and turn into a costly repair cycle. So if a patient has issues with wax or drainage, it's important that you really counsel them on whether or not a RIC would be appropriate for them. RICs can also be difficult for patients who have dexterity issues. You can make custom molds that snap onto the speakers to help with that if a patient really wants that RIC style. So there are a lot of options with RIC hearing aids. Here you see various styles, some different manufacturers. We have a RIC with an open ear tip, and you can see through that ear tip or that dome. You can see the battery compartment. Here's an image to give you an example of what a RIC on the ear looks like. So it's sitting completely behind the ear, and then that tubing with the thin wire and the speaker comes down and goes into the ear canal. Here's some more examples. So a RIC with a closed dome, you can't see through that dome, so that lets you know it's a closed dome, and it's just sitting real nice behind that ear. Okay. All right, so what is this style of hearing aid? This is an in-the-ear instrument, and it's a full shell in-the-ear instrument. We're going to go through some of the components of this hearing aid. So what am I pointing to here? There we have a volume wheel, and that can be turned on or off. Here you can see the battery door, which can be opened at night to disable the hearing aid. Now we have a push button that changes programs if programs are available. Here you can see two slits where the microphones sit. The hole at the bottom shows the vent, and it's an open vent. We haven't occluded it at all. And it runs through the casing of the hearing aid to allow natural sounds in and some of the sound out from the ear canal. Here, that smaller hole above the vent shows the speaker. And here you can get an idea of how the hearing aid fits into the ear. It's not made exactly for this plastic ear, but it gives you an idea of how that would just sit right down into the ear canal. And here what we have is a faceplate that has not been connected to a custom mold, but it has the same components here that you can see. You've got your volume dial, your battery compartment, your volume control or program changer, your microphones, and any button or volume control can be disabled in the programming. So if a patient doesn't want to have to worry about that, then as the practitioner, you can go in and disable those options for them. There you can see the speaker. There's the battery compartment. Here you can see a telecoil. It's got the copper wiring wrapped around. And there you can see the microphones. So they're there on the faceplate where the sound is coming in, and there are the electronics connected to the amplifier. The amplifier is the silver part that I pointed to earlier. Okay. What are the benefits of this style? So benefits of an in-the-ear instrument include dexterity, abilities. When you take away having to put something behind the ear and in the ear, it makes it easier for patients to handle. And custom instruments are kind of like a puzzle piece. They fit right into the ear canal, and it's pretty hard to mess it up, especially with a full shell in the ear aid. If you have a patient who doesn't need directionality from behind, if they're, say, they're bedbound or something of that nature, an in-the-ear aid is a great option. What are the downfalls of this style? The biggest downfall of an in-the-ear instrument or any custom instrument is the requirement to send the hearing aid out for any kind of repairs or changes. So your patient is then left without a hearing aid. In-the-ear aids can also be difficult for patients with drainage or cerumen issues because all of the electronics are in the aid and close to the ear canal. Here you can see just an image of an in-the-ear pair of aids. They're marked demo because they're demonstration aids. So they work for mild to moderate hearing losses, and all electronics are housed in that casing. Here's some pictures of the faceplate and in the ear on a patient's ear. You can see a full shell is going to fill all the way up here into the helix and the full concha. Okay. So here we can see the faceplate of the hearing aid. And now if I can get this into focus here. So what kind of hearing aid are we looking at here? And what component am I pointing to there? Here we have a battery door. So you open it to disengage the battery and turn the hearing aid off. And what am I pointing to now? We have microphones there, 2 microphones, and in the center we have a program button. Here at the bottom we have a volume dial. And at the very bottom on the outside you can see the vent that runs all the way through the hearing aid. So you can see the vent there from the outside to the inside. And there you can see the wax strap which protects the speaker. The speaker's hidden down there. And that wax strap just blocks wax from getting down into the hearing aid and causing problems with the electrical components. Here we can see a faceplate. Again, there are the microphones. You can see the push button and the battery compartment. On the flip side, you have your speaker, the telecoil, and those long plastic pieces hanging off are just used to hold the telecoil in the mold once the mold is made. There we have the amplifier. The battery compartment. And the microphones. So this style of hearing aid is a canal aid or an ITC, and in the canal aid and what are the benefits of this style? So again, you have a custom instrument which is easier to insert into the ear canal. It's kind of like a puzzle piece. It just fits right into the ear. You get the speaker closer to the eardrum, which provides better sound quality. And you can fit these custom aids to patients who don't need microphones pointing behind them. A lot of patients like canal aids as well because they're kind of low profile and not as easy to see. So downfalls to this style are that it's small, so it's a little bit more difficult for patients with dexterity issues. The hearing aid is smaller, which means you can't fit as many components. So if the patient's ear is small, you might not be able to give them the telecoil option. They might not be able to have wireless connectivity. Various items like that, you kind of lose the smaller the hearing aid gets. Okay, so here you can see a pair of in the canal aids. They're lower profile, less visibility, work for mild to moderate hearing losses. Great compromise for someone who wants a CIC or a completely in the canal hearing aid but needs a little bit more amplification. And these plastic pieces right here sticking off are retrieval lines, so that's what the patient can use to help pull the hearing aid out of their ear. There's no electronics, it's not any kind of antenna. It's just a little piece of plastic that helps pull the hearing aid out of the ear. Here you can see the faceplate of an in the canal aid, and you can see the back or the speaker side. So there's your speaker with your wax trap, and there's your vent. This little connectivity symbol here means that the hearing aid has wireless or ear-to-ear connectivity. It connects to various streamers or remote mics, and it can be wirelessly programmed. Okay, and our last hearing aid style. What is this style of hearing aid that I'm holding now? There you can see the vent and the speaker. The speaker is covered by a wax trap there. In the bottom you can see the vent. So on the faceplate you can see the microphone, the push button, a retrieval line, the battery door, here you can see the actual aid and then the faceplate before the mold is made and connected. Here again you have the push button. So programming changes, volume changes. You have the microphone, the battery compartment, and the internal components. You can see the speaker, the telecoil, again those plastic pieces are just to hold the telecoil in the mold once the mold is made. You can see the amplifier, the battery compartment, and finally the microphones. So what are the benefits of this style? The benefits of a completely in the canal hearing aid include the very low profile. It fits completely in the canal and kind of hides behind the tragus portion of the ear. It puts the speaker closer to the eardrum so you have a better sound quality, and it reduces wind noise because you're putting the microphones down in the ear canal where they're protected from a lot of wind, and it also helps pick up the resonance of the pinna, so the sound is still traveling naturally through the pinna down to the canal to the hearing aid microphone. Downfalls to this style include losing capabilities because you're creating a smaller hearing aid. So the smaller you get, the fewer capabilities you have, which is rapidly changing with modern hearing aids, but has been something that has been historically true. Other downfalls include the same as in-the-ear instruments and canal aids, that if there is a problem with the circuit or something breaks or the mold needs to be modified, most of the time you have to send it into the manufacturer for repair and the patient is left without a hearing aid. You can also have issues with canal or CIC aids and the wax buildup. People who have drainage, these hearing aids are not a good choice for those patients because of the electronics being so close to that fluid. Okay, so here you can see a pair, and you've got the red for the right ear, blue for the left ear. The serial numbers, it tells you the style and then the manufacturer, Unitron. Your retrieval line here. You can see the faceplate with the microphone, your push button, battery door. Down here you can see the vent and the retrieval line. You've got your speaker, and down here you can't see it, but you'll have a vent. So here you can just kind of get a idea of what various styles look like on the patient's ear. So here you've got a BTE with standard tubing, a full shell in the ear, a half shell in the ear, an in the canal aid, and a completely in canal aid. And then at the end you've got a receiver in the canal aid. Here's some various styles again. Various styles on ear. And you might hear about mini CIC or IIC hearing aids, which are invisible in the canal. Another specific kind of hearing aid made by one manufacturer is called a Lyric, and it's a disposable hearing aid that has to be placed very deeply inside the ear canal, and once the battery dies, it has to be removed by the hearing healthcare professional. They're not widely used, but they're available for a niche in the market. Tips on styles, just a little review here. While some of your textbooks might reference a Rita hearing aid, you won't hear that term in the field. So that's a term that you can skip over. Manufacturers who use Rita, the term Rita, use it for various styles, so it's not commonly used and it's not something that we'll want you all to be using in the program. So a RIC can also be called a RITE. A RITE stands for receiver in the ear. RIC stands for receiver in canal. They're interchangeable and it doesn't matter to us which one you use. Okay, and there's just some information about ear molds. Even with smaller hearing aids nowadays, you can fit your telecoil, your wireless connectivity, strong speakers. RICs can be made with custom molds, power speakers. It's really more about patient preference than hearing aid abilities. Okay, so information on IIC. And if you have any questions about this presentation, you can feel free to post them in the Q&A discussion area.